attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar on NCPERS 2015 Public Retirement Systems Study and Dashboard tutorial. Today's program is part of our Center for Online Learning. The purpose of the NCPERS Center for Online Learning is to provide remote continuing education to public pension trustees, staff, and other fiduciaries and stakeholders. In today's webinar, we will be reviewing the findings of the 2015 Public Retirement System Study that was released late last year. NCPERS, in partnership with Cobalt Community Research, has been conducting this annual survey since 2011. What is interesting and unique about our study is that it gathers data from the full vertical profile of public pensions, that is, state, county, and local plans. We will also have a live demonstration of the study dashboard. The dashboard is an interactive interface that allows one to adjust survey parameters so that you can see data that is of particular interest to you. It also allows you to make an apples-to-apples comparison. Leading us in today's webinar are William St. Amour and Pete Charette. William serves as Research Director at the Municipal Employees Retirement System of Michigan and as Executive Director of Cobalt Community Research. He has worked in the research and communications fields for over 25 years. Pete Charette is an analyst at Cobalt. He holds a bachelor's in business administration from Western Michigan University. Pete is currently a candidate for a master's degree in marketing research at Michigan State University. As always, we encourage questions and comments from our viewers. However, in order to get through the presentation, we will hold all questions and comments till the end. William, Pete, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hank, and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We expect the presentation to go around 30 or 40 minutes, so we should have plenty of time for Q&A at the conclusion. As Hank said, this is now the 5th year of the study. We've been evolving it each year by adding new questions or removing ones that are deemed no longer relevant. And this year, in an effort to give more ownership of the data, we created this reporting dashboard. Now, the dashboard, like the survey, continues to be a work in progress. So you will see this too evolve over the coming years. And if you have any suggestions on or recommendations on how we can improve this process, please let us know. So a quick note, as we continue to evolve, we will be adding more data to the dashboard. But for now, only the 2015 findings are on this dashboard. Before we dive in, I wanted to give a little background on Cobalt and who we are and what we do. We are a 501c3 nonprofit research coalition with a mission to provide research and education for governments, retirement systems, schools, and other nonprofits. We're located in Lansing, Michigan, and we are actually staffed through the Municipal Employees Retirement System of Michigan. So we're aware of many of the opportunities and challenges facing public sector retirement systems. The 2015 edition was the 5th annual Public Employee Retirement System Study, which we like to boast as one of the most comprehensive surveys involving public retirement systems. Some of the goals of this study are to explore retirement practices and use the most recently available data to analyze fiscal conditions and operational integrity. Also, we like to use it as a tool to kind of crowdsource best practices and strategies that funds can piggyback on. Now, we've used the same methodology for collecting the data year after year. Essentially, we have 2 pools of respondents. The first, we invited any and all NCPERS members to complete the study, and we invited them via e-blast. In addition, we also polled the top 300 funds who are not NCPERS members based on their assets and participants. And with them, we used 2 paper mailings. So in total, we invited around 637 funds, and we heard back from 179 of them. Of the 179, 151 gave us permission to post their data on this dashboard. We did promise anonymity, so there are no identifiable information on the dashboard. And the distribution, just the last point here, the distribution of respondents is very similar to what we have seen with prior studies. This next slide, we list out some of the key findings from the 2015 survey, and they include that public funds are becoming more cost-effective, and so responding funds report their total cost of administering their funds and paying investment managers as approximately 60 basis points. And for those who may not be aware, 100 basis points equals 1 percentage point. Now that was a decrease of 1 basis point from 2014. Now, according to the 2015 Investment Company Fact Book, average expenses of most equity funds average around 70 basis points. So this means that funds with lower expenses provide a higher level of benefit to members and also produce a higher economic impact for the communities that those members live in. Funds also continue to tighten benefits, assumptions, and governance. Examples include the continued trend of shortening amortization periods, increasing member contribution rates, and also lowering their actuarial assumed rate of return. Another piece we found was that funds are currently experiencing healthy 1-year, 3-year, 5-year, and 20-year gross investment returns. The 1-year gross return is around 11%, with 10-year returns hovering around 7%. Now, respondents continue to work towards offsetting the sharp losses from 2008 and 2009 by strengthening their investment discipline. And signs do point towards long-term improvement in public retirement systems funded status. Funds also experience an increased average funded level. So responding funds reported an average funded level of 74%, which is up from 72% in 2014. 3 main factors contributed to that change. The first, on average, funds saw 1-year investment returns of 11%. And second, the funds continue to lower their amortization periods. The third point is the 2008 market crash is no longer eroding actuarial assets for funds that use a 5-year investment smoothing period, which you'll see in a few minutes here that is most of the funds in the survey. The fifth point, income used to fund pension programs generally comes from 3 sources: the member contributions, employer, and also investment returns. And we see investment returns as the most significant source, around 75%. So member contributions make up 7%, and the employers are around 19%. The last point, the public funds remain confident in their ability to address the trends and issues over the next few years. And those are mainly through lower expenses, active administration with their fund, solid investment returns, and adjusting benefits when necessary. Now this slide shows some of the tools available for the 2015 study, and we'll have hyperlinks for the full media release, the full report, and also the different ways you can gain access to the dashboard. So what we're going to do now is go through a quick demonstration of the dashboard. So give me just a few seconds to pull this up. Okay. When you access the dashboard, the first page that you'll see is this landing page. It contains the executive summary, key findings from the full report. It also has this table of contents along the right-hand side, which will allow you to navigate to each dashboard page. And within each page, you'll find a small Return to Table of Contents button that will assist you in navigating. In addition, there are also tabs that you can use to navigate between the pages. Now, when you access the dashboard, the tabs will actually be up top, but for now, they're on the bottom. This first tab is showing who responded to the survey. You'll find that most of the pages have the same general look and feel, where we have some of the filters along the upper right-hand side, and we have 2 different types of filters that we use. One with boxes where you can select and deselect the filters, and we also have the scroll bars that allow you to pull in the endpoints into a particular subset of the population that you want to see. Also on each page, we have a number of respondents box. So as you change the filters, you will see how many funds fall into those groups. For example, we're going to select the filter Social Security eligibility and select all that are have members that are eligible for Social Security. You can see that 94 respondents fall into that group. As you may have already seen, as you change the filters, the data on the screen will then update dynamically. This page also contains several of the different demographic questions on the survey. So we asked whether or not their members are eligible for Social Security, whether or not they include overtime in their final benefit calculation, whether or not the fund provides retiree health benefits, the type of jurisdictions that they serve, and also their plan types. And the categories can be defined benefit, defined contribution, hybrid plans, or combination plans, and also cash balance plans. And you'll see with each one of these, as you hover over, more detail will appear. We asked funds to rate their satisfaction with their ability to address retirement trends and issues over the next 2 years. Now this scatter plot shows all of the funds rankings on the vertical axis, so on the scale from 1 to 10. And then we also listed out the fund's total number of participants on the horizontal axis. And again, as you hover over, more data will appear. The average for the group is right around an 8, which is up from a 7.8 in 2013 and a 7.4 in 2011. And there really isn't too much fluctuation based on plan size. With these scatter plot charts, you have the ability to manipulate the data if you want to look further into the data. All you need to do is left click and draw a box around the group that you want to dive deeper into. And you can either keep only or exclude those groups. So in this case, we're going to keep only. And it allows you to look further into their information. If you want to revert back, you can just select the undo button, and that will take you right back to where you were. Next, we'll take a look at fund expenses. Up top, we're aggregating the fund's investment basis points and administrative basis points. The scatter plot below is combining investment and administrative basis points into a total plan expense. And again, it's plotted out by plan size, with the average being around 60 basis points, which, like we said earlier, is a slight decline from last year's survey. And again, you have the ability to hide some of the outliers or look further at their information. This page is showing the 4 different actuarial assumptions for the responding funds. In the top left, we have the average investment assumption, and that for the group is 7.5. You can see there really is not a lot of variability between the responding funds. Most are within that 8.5 to 6.5 range. The bottom left, we have the average inflation assumption, which for the group is at a 3.2%. But you can see there's a little more variety in the responses as opposed to the investment assumption. In the top right, we have the average amortization period, and that average for the group is at 25 years, which is down slightly from 2014. And we're starting to see that some funds that had open or rolling amortizations now close those in an effort to improve their unfunded liability. The last assumption that we'll look at is in this bottom right-hand quadrant, which is the investment smoothing period. Most funds, you can see, have that 5-year smoothing period. But as you can also see, there are some outliers who offer 10 years or 4 years. For funds with that 5-year smoothing period, their most recent fiscal years were the first years where those 2008 and 2009 losses were not included, which helped boost their funding ratios. The next few slides that we'll look at are looking at some of the actions public sector retirement funds are taking to ensure their operational integrity and improve their funded status. Looking at retirement plan changes, we can see that more than 40% of the respondents have lowered their actuarial assumed rate of return and also increased their employee contributions in the last 2 years. Both of those saw significant increases between the 2014 and 2015 surveys. An additional 11% of respondents are looking at implementing those changes in the next 2 years. These graphs show what retirement benefits responding funds are offering to their membership. Most funds are offering defined benefit plans, a disability benefit, and an in-service death benefit. Areas with increases compared to the 2014 survey include offering an in-service death benefit and also offering a deferred compensation plan. The next page we'll look at are the cost of living adjustments. So the plurality of funds do not offer any cost of living adjustments, which is an increase from 2014. So you can see around 30% of the respondents fall into that group. Of those that do offer a COLA, 23% are at 3% or higher. 18% offer COLAs of 2%. And then there's 15% of the responding funds at 1%. Funds whose members are not eligible for Social Security, so we'll clear out those filters, tend to offer much higher cost of living adjustments to their members to help offset their inability to access Social Security. Now moving to some of the business practices that have been particularly popular in the last 2 years. Almost 60% of responding funds have updated or strengthened their asset allocation study and also conducted death audits. Around 50% have conducted an actuarial audit by a third party, information systems security audits, or requested an IRS letter of determination. Looking at the next 2 years, we can see that updating member data software, providing online portals for members to access information, and requesting IRS letter of determinations as the practices with the most activity in the coming years. Most funds have expanded their retirement planning education for members, developed talking points for staff, notified members of an updated handbook or summary plan information. Areas where funds are noting a significant increase from 2014 are assessing member satisfaction and also using social media. The bottom 2 graphs show the responding funds' ability to communicate with their membership through various means. Outside of having the ability to send communications to the home address of their membership, we see that most funds do not have the ability to reach their membership through phone, text message, and even email for some. Below shows some of the oversight practices and the percent of responding funds who do each of these. Increased activity over the 2014 survey includes funds' readiness to communicate the Gatsby 68 changes, receiving the Government Finance Officers Association Award of Excellence, and also an independent annual investment performance evaluation. Next, we'll take a look at investment returns. So we can see the gross, on average, the gross one-year returns are exceeding 11%. 3-year and 5-year returns are hovering between 10 and 11%. And that 20-year gross return at 8.5% shows the continued growth and long-term stability of public retirement systems. Not all the responding funds have the same fiscal year end date, so the timing can significantly impact the investment experience between funds. You will also see that we have the gross returns from the 2014 and 2013 studies. However, those are static images, and the data will not be updated when you select the different filters. The graphs on this page show the responding funds' current asset allocations on the left and also their target asset allocations on the right. Newly added assets for the 2015 survey include the global equity and also the global fixed income. We also added the fund's 1-year gross returns as a filter and also their 10-year. So you can see the asset allocations of those funds who reported the highest 1-year returns, or you can also see funds that had some lower returns, what their current and target asset allocations were. Funds with the highest 1-year returns had higher allocations to equities and a lower exposure to real estate than other funds. In the asset allocations, we had an open-ended comment box for those funds who had other categories that they invest in. The word cloud at the bottom shows what other asset classes funds are currently investing. The larger the word appears, the more frequently that word came up in the comments. And if you click on the word cloud, you will be given direct access to those verbatim comments. So you can see exactly what funds responded and how they responded. This page shows the overall funding percentage for responding funds, which is at a 74.1%. You can also see their aggregated sources of revenue, which shows how much of their revenues come from employer contributions, member contributions, and also investment earnings. Again, this scatter plot shows funded status along the vertical and plan size across the bottom. The average, again, 74%, and the red line at 70% is what Fitch Ratings considers to be an adequately funded plan. This final page shows 2 more word clouds. The first, we asked responding funds to list out what strategies they have taken to help reduce their unfunded accrued liability. Some of the top themes that we saw were increasing employee and employer contributions, changing and reducing benefits for current and future employees, and also closing the amortization period. And again, by clicking on the image, you will be taken to the verbatim comments. The other word cloud, we ask funds to share any innovations or best practices they want to share that may help other funds. The top themes that we saw from those were providing tools to help their members focus and prepare for retirement, helping members address healthcare in retirement, and also some organizational efficiencies, such as increasing their workflows, audits, and establishing organizational metrics. So that is it for the demonstration, and I'm going to turn it over to William now for the wrap-up.
Thank you, Pete. One thing I just wanted to mention to this group is that we are still playing around with the software. We're learning it. One of the things that we're doing also is working with a series of other retirement systems to do some benchmarking of our own data and theirs. So we basically are looking at the regular age and service retirement. We have a common survey instrument that we're all using together. We've been taking that data and plugging it into this kind of software so we can identify what are some of the drivers of the information that we're pulling back from the voice of the customer, looking at how we can do a better job learning from each other, and also aligning it with the American Customer Satisfaction Index, the ACSI, which is something that's been around for about 20 years out of the Michigan's Ross Business School. It's one of the big indicators that U of M publishes each quarter. But it allows us to not only compare our scores on an apples-to-apples basis, but we can also go outside of our scores to see how are we performing compared to other entities out in the U.S. economy. So some of the areas that they look at in the ACSI include federal government entities, so Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, Social Security, as well as groups like the IRS and NASA and the Internal Revenue Intelligence Agency, a number of those different kind of things, which are pretty interesting to look at. It also allows us to look at various sectors of the economy, so the financial sector, the healthcare sector, and it allows us to dive into specific entities within the private sector, such as Blue Cross Blue Shield and other entities that just allow us to dig in and see how their performance looks compared to our performance. It's useful because our scores for satisfaction often drift up and down. And it's useful to know if they're drifting up and down because of other things that are going on in the environment, such as economic issues or political issues that are making everyone's scores go up and down, or if we're experiencing a movement in our scores that's different from everybody else's. It just helps us have a much fuller picture of what's going on. So you can see the list of the different retirement systems that are involved in this pilot as well. And this is something that we do want to make available to other retirement systems. So if this is something that's of interest to you, we'll give you the email address in a minute, and we can see if we can get you involved as well. We are looking at expanding this into other types of customer evaluations, other types of surveys, as well as comparing other types of data that might be useful for benchmarking. So please get this on your radar screen and get a hold of us if you'd like to learn more about getting involved in the work group. So with that, the next study is going to be launched in July 2016. We do encourage you to watch for that invitation. It'll be coming through your email. Please complete it quickly, and if there's peers that you have and other retirement systems that you're talking to, please encourage them to complete it as well. The more data we have, the richer the analysis that we can do. And with that, we will open this up to questions.
Great. Thank you, William. Thank you, Pete. So we do have a couple of questions. First is, I think what they're asking is, if you were to participate in the survey, how long does that typically last?
Well, the survey typically takes around 15 to 20 minutes to complete. Now, we do recommend having your CAFR readily available, as that will help assist you in filling out that survey. New coming in 2016, if you are a prior respondent, we're going to give you easy access to your 2015 survey, and we'll give you the ability to just quickly update any numbers that may have changed and give you the opportunity to respond to that survey a lot quicker.
The other thing that we started doing is we created a PDF version for internal use for the various systems that are out there. So if you need to go around and talk to some different people to get the numbers, it's just an easy way, a form that you can walk around and capture that information and then go online and complete the survey all at once to make things simpler and smoother.
Great, thank you. And then somewhat relatedly, and I think you may have answered this, but in terms of the time frame of the data, so each plan, because you're going to be using their CAFRs, the data may be slightly different in terms of time frame, correct?
Correct. We just ask that they use their most recently available CAFR, and we do have an indication as to what year that, or the year and month that their fiscal year end date is.
Great, thank you. And then the final question, or it may be more of a comment, it asks, whether we would consider including executive staff salaries as part of the data inquiry. Thoughts about that, including it in asking about senior executive staff?
We're open to it. It would just be a question of what has value to the membership and if they're willing to share their data. I'm sure they're all interested in looking at other people's data. It's a question of whether they're willing to share their own data as well. It's all public record, but we're open to it. For us, it's just another field in the survey.
Okay. Great. Pete, William, thank you very much for running through the dashboard as well as the survey results. Again, I want to underscore their invitation to participate in the 2016 survey, which will be coming to you, the invitation to participate coming to you in July. So please keep an eye out for that. And finally, I want to thank you all for participating. And we hope to see you again next week when we host a webinar on corporate governance and the proxy season that's coming up in May. Thank you so much, and we hope to talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.